Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 71st live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I'm your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's homebrew review, we have another submission from KosmycPurge, not me. We have another submission from KosmycPurge, and it is going to be a weapon this week. It is going to be the Di-Diabotchi's Lunar Scythe of Memories. This is a long time coming. We've been waiting for this one for a while, but we did have to put it off a couple times to just rearrange what we were doing with the homebrew, but we have finally made it. It is finally here. I know Cosmic's already in the chat. I see Inventrology in the chat. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here already. We don't have any updates, so we are going to kind of just jump right into this today, where we've been kind of putting it off for far too long. So yeah, let me get Kage in here, and we will begin. We'll begin this review. Let's go, bam, bam. There. What is up, my dude? How are you doing? How was your weekend?
I am doing all right. Shalom, my friends. We've been chilling. We've been chilling, hanging in there. I got to hang out, chill, do a whole lot of nothing for the first time in a while. So
it's always good.
That's like you do.
Yeah, like you do, man. Like,
but I am very excited. Cosmic has been hyping me up on this scythe for a minute.
Dude, Cosmic has not been letting up on when we're gonna do this, and we have unfortunately had to put it off for various reasons. But it is finally here. We are finally here. Full attention.
Yes.
Not a quick day or anything. We're not going to be rushing anything. So we are going to give this a full chance. I do know Cosmic is here. He made a couple comments. He really does think that you're going to like this one.
I hope so.
So
I'm very excited.
He also has an interesting insight. We were just talking about this right before we went live. So he thinks, as D&D people, he thinks that he thinks of you as like a scythe wielding fighter, which is interesting because I do think you tend towards monk druid.
Yes,
but you've only really ever used, well, I guess both your monk and your druid have, at least the two that I've known, have used some sort of staff.
That is fair.
So it's close. It is well within the ballpark.
Pole arm-ish is very, very much my wheelhouse. I will say, what was that one game? There was this one game where you got to be a scythe wielder, and I think it was one of the later Soul Calibur games. There was like a scythe wielder in there.
Yeah.
And his moves were so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
It was so nice to play that. He had some really nice combos. But
yeah.
Anyways.
For me, he has envisioned a magic arrow archer. Now, at first, I wasn't really sure how to take that one because I didn't really know if that was. I didn't really think it was accurate at first, but then as I dissect it, right, take away at face value, right, because I don't run archers really, but my typical build is a rogue, but I do typically, I guess more often than not, will dabble in either a side proficiency or a skill of archery. Because I will be able to use, it's not my main attack. It's not something that I will default to.
Right.
But I will have it in the event of, sneak attacks or, getting an initiative off beforehand. But typically it is not something that I will rely on because I will quickly try to get into engaged combat or melee. And I have been known to mix multi-class my rogue or do rogue subclasses with magic. So a magic arrow archer, I've had builds similar where I've had magically imbued or magic bows, but I've never really been a static like primary archer as a character. It's just always been something else I can do to be more versatile with the stealth.
Yeah.
But pretty damn close. Definitely more closer on you than on me. But again, magic arrow archer, yeah, I would say probably the average rogue I've built has archery and has attempted to use magic in some form, whether it's adapted magic through a subclass or a multi-class or used magical items. You know what I mean? So it's actually fairly close. I would have to say that's much better than other judgments I've had. I've had some ones that are I've had people who peg me as a wizard, like a pure mage user. Like, okay, there is a reason why High Point has so many custom wizarding or mage classes. There's a reason why I have an entire episode. If y'all haven't seen it, check out my VOD channel.
It's really good.
But there is a reason why. I mean, what do I have? I have like 6 that I've created simply because I don't like the limitations and the concept behind wizards in D&D, at least, from a second point edition view. And even in 5th edition, I'm not as happy with the relationship with magic. It's not that I'm not happy with the builds. I'm not happy with the relationship with magic.
Right.
But I've had people peg me as that, and I don't think that's that great. I think Cosmic has been pretty damn close with that one, but yeah, definitely good with you though. The Scythe Arthur is good, or the Scythe user. If you were to cast Gust of Wind and then shoot an arrow through and along the spell's effect, would the speed of the wind make the arrow's impact do any more damage? So in that particular case, if you're saying that you're trying to do Gust of Wind and you fire an arrow with the wind, as far as I understand, you would get less drag. So you would get more distance, but you would not get more force. Because if you think about the idea of archery, I used to do archery. So if you understand archery, the way that wind affects an arrow is typically trajectory, not force. Even if you're firing into a gust of wind, it's typically not as though you're getting less force out of your impact. You're still going to hit your target and you're still going to pierce it. But what you're getting is a change in trajectory, because the way that the arrow flies through the air, especially because it bends, the way that actually happens is when you have all of that gust, depending on where the wind's going, it's more likely to just push the arrow because the arrow is going through those, the flow of wind. It's more likely to veer off, but it's not so much likely to gain anything. So what I would say is if you cast Gust of Wind and then fire an arrow with it, I could absolutely see, I would, as a DM, allow for a player to make the argument that they can gain distance on their
increased range.
And without decreasing damage.
I agree with that.
Without getting disadvantage.
I also think
okay with
to
that.
add on to that, it helps a little bit to reduce the amount of deceleration, because a lot of the force comes from how far back, how much pounds per square inch you have on your bow itself, right? That's why your weapon is usually what determines your damage in these situations. And so but having that wind there would help decrease how much drag is on there, and so it would allow it to carry a lot further and get you all that perfect.
So I would say that in what you're trying to do, Cosmic, and again, this is because within High Point, and we've talked about this before, I do add a somewhat realistic level of physics. Even we have magic and all that, but I still have the concept of how that would actually affect things. I don't think that you would really be able to push an arrow because it has so little surface area. You wouldn't be able to get more force out of it, but I'm 100% down for the idea that Gust of Wind would give you 50% up to double, maybe anywhere from 50% up to double your range. Now I'm totally okay with that.
Now the question becomes, what happens if you use catapult on an arrow?
Remind me what that does.
Catapult. It's a first level spell.
Because I know that enlarge is also a little bit different. But okay. So I think the problem with catapult, I think I've read up on this too. The problem with catapult is it doesn't stack with the trajectory. The idea is catapult.
It doesn't stack with the damage. You would just replace it.
Well, catapult is designed to initiate a level of force. It will not stack. If you fire an arrow and then do catapult, it's basically whichever is greater. If the force of your bow is greater, you won't cast catapult because it won't do anything to the arrow. But if your arrow has been fired and then you cast catapult and catapult would do more to it, it's not like they would magnify each other. They don't multiply. It would just increase up to catapult's max.
Exactly.
So it's only the greater of the two.
Which is almost always going to be catapult because it's 3d8.
Yeah. So in that particular case, catapult would be better than Gust of Wind, but do them together. Gust of Wind giving you 50%, 75%, 100% distance on top of that, plus catapult.
Interesting. Okay, so catapult's range is a flat 60 feet.
But if you use Gust of Wind to make the arrow float, I would be okay with saying let's let that 120 feet if you could do both spells simultaneously. I'm just saying this is how we do it.
Get a sorcerer on that right away.
Fantastic question, Cosmic. He says that blows. Yeah, those damn bots. Oh, well, we caught them. I'm getting better at noticing them and not giving them any time of day. All right, so without further ado, we have done our obligatory 15 minutes. Let everybody, get in.
Gather in.
So, Cosmic, are you excited? I know you're excited. You told me last week that you were excited. All right, here we go. We have, hell yeah, let's go, brother. All right, Di-Diabotchi's Lunar Scythe of Memories. It's cut off there, but Lunar Scythe of Memories, because I was not reading the red. But so my interpretation is Di-Diabotchi's. I did hit up Cosmic. Di is correct, but we weren't really sure about the rest of it. So Diabotchi is what I came up with. I guess you could call it Di-Diabotchi. But I think Di-Diabotchi makes sense. Lunar Scythe of Memories. All right, so this is a legendary cursed weapon of the Scythe variety. And of course, it is submitted by our own KosmycPurge. I think the ringleader of the homebrew review leaderboard.
Facts.
All right, and there is no attunement. Oh, that is actually kind of surprising. Well, I mean, I guess it's cursed. You won't really want an attunement on it. Ooh. Side conversation we're not going to have right now, but cursed items with attunement, that would make them alluring for the wrong reason. We're gonna have it. That's a different day, but that's an interesting idea. So no attunement on this cursed legendary scythe. Let's go. We have some properties. It is heavy. Heavy, I believe, means that you need a strength of 16. Cosmic, am I correct on that?
Let me check.
Or is it 15 in 5th edition? I think in 2nd edition, you had to have like a 15.
Heavy, small creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls with heavy weapons. A heavy weapon is a heavy weapon size and bulk make it too large for small creature to carry to use effectively. And then it says two-handed. This weapon requires 2 hands to use. This property is relevant only when you attack with the weapon.
So it doesn't have a strength minimum?
In 5th edition, it might not. All it says for the heavy property is small creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls.
Is that correct? I could have sworn. Or is it just that? So is it just that heavy weapons require 2 hands? Like all heavy weapons require 2 hands?
I think the majority of heavy weapons require 2 hands. Like there might be like a flail or something fat like that that's considered a heavy weapon that you can wield with 1 hand. But as far as I know.
So Cosmic says there's no attunement since the DM in the party has to jump through a lot of hoops even to get the weapon. So no no additional like barrier to entry. First, you need the deck of many things. Second, you need the party to use it and not just stow it away, never see the light of day because most people don't ever want to tempt fate. Third, you need them to draw the skull card. And fourth, you need to win the fight against the Avatar of Death to win the weapon. So this is the Avatar of Death's weapon. That's way different. So I guess that's Di-Diabotchi. Okay.
All right, then.
Even that it could be a non-melee character that could end up winning it. Interesting. Okay, so with heavy, I guess it doesn't matter what your strength is. I could have sworn that heavy required a certain level of strength.
I think it did at one point. I think it may have been... I don't know what edition...
Let's see.
I mean, for me, I feel like it would be 2nd edition because, at the very least, because that's where I started.
Yeah, and that's why it might just be me thinking back on older requirements. Yeah, see, in 3.5 there was a mechanic for it. So I think in 5th edition they must have just made it to where it's a size of creature, not a strength level. Yeah, I don't see anything else here. Slowed by 10 feet. Heavy weapons are difficult to hold steady and aim accurately, and thus require a minimum strength. Is that 5th edition? See, I'm not seeing anything in like the official rulebook for it.
Yeah, the only thing I was able to find is I just looked up the first heavy weapon that I could think of, and I just went to its property. That's the only. But I know I don't remember what rule book that it did come from. Hold on.
So I think no wait. So I think in 5th edition, is there a minimum strength for heavy armor?
Yes.
So maybe that's it. Maybe it's heavy armor has the strength. Which you would think heavy weapons would have the same, right? Like you think that they would be they would stack.
It's in. Let me actually look. Plate. That's heavy. That's dwarven plate. AC. The wearer has to have a strength score of no lower than 15, or their speed is reduced by 10.
Yeah, and again, I'm thinking that it's just so heavy weapons are literally limited by the size of creature, which is kind of dumb in my opinion. I highly disagree with that. I think if you're gonna identify it as different size, like a different weight class, it should require a different strength class in my opinion. So interesting. So this in general cannot be wielded easily by a small or smaller creature, right? That's basically what the heavy means. Okay.
I would imagine that it would be impossible for a tiny creature.
I think so too.
To actually do anything,
but again, it does give us an idea because being heavy, that does give literal and figurative weight to this, to this weapon. Okay. It is two-handed, which I do like. It would be kind of cool too if there is the one small caveat that it is two-handed, except by its original owner. Like only its original owner can wield it one hand. Yeah, it would just be cool to just know that they could just do that. But then it's like, nope, nobody else just has that. Because again, it's more like the millennia, the centuries.
Now, what if they take on the new the mantle of the Avatar of Death?
Well, that's a different question for a different that's a different question for a different series. And it has a reach of 10 feet. I like that.
Okay,
I like that right out the gate. I'm okay with that. So we have a damage of 5d8 plus a history modifier. 5d8 plus history modifier psychic damage. This damage bypasses psychic resistances and immunities.
Okay, so when you say bypass, Cosmic, do you mean like?
I mean that if you have any resistance or immunity to any sort of psychic damage, this ignores it.
It completely ignores it.
As far as I read this
entirely.
Bypass equals ignores. Yes. So this is basically
it's like
it's the Avatar of Death, bro. Like he's attacking your soul. As far as I'm considering, and I think psychic makes sense because I think the way I look at this is he's attacking your soul. He's not fighting your mortal coil. He's not fighting your mortal body. He slashes through you, and you might as well just if it hits you. I would even love it if Cosmic had it in here that you don't bleed. It doesn't do physical damage.
It just slices right through you.
Like it'll stab you and you'll feel it, but when he guts it out of you, don't have a cut. Your armor's fine.
Bro.
There's no cut, but you feel just the hurt, the pain of your soul cut right there. I would even be down for that. But yeah, no, I'm interested. Cosmic, let me know if it's already gonna be described later. But I'm really curious where you came up with the history modifier. That's what I'm really interested in. Why history modifier for the extra damage, and I'm really also curious the 5d8 if there's a scythe that you've like leveled up or just I'm just really curious how you calculated that out. I think it's great. I like that amount of damage. I like that roll. I'm just really more curious about where it came from. The psychic damage is based on the memories you witness when you roll nat 1s or nat 20s. The 5d8 is based on 1d8 per rarity level. Oh, okay. 1d8 per... Okay, awesome. And history is based memories you witness when you've rolled a nat 1 or nat 20. Interesting.
I think that might be a part of its abilities that get explained.
Okay, that's cool. That's dope. No, I am 100% down for that.
That's why it's the Scythe of Memories.
Yeah. Okay.
And that also makes a lot of sense with the psychic damage too.
Yeah. No. 100%. And then the special: neither advantage nor disadvantage applies to attacks made with this weapon. So it cannot get advantage nor disadvantage. It is what it is.
It just is what
because it just straight up attacks your soul.
Bro,
I like this.
That's clean. I like that right there.
That's an amazing specialty.
And I hope that that's what the curse is. I'm not even gonna lie. I hope that's what the curse is, because if it's just like you don't get to be anything other than what it is, you don't get to modify it, you can't fix it, you can't fudge it, you just take it.
I'm conflicted. I don't want to tangent this too far right now because we haven't read anything into it yet. But as of right now, based on what I'm imagining, based on what we've read, I'm conflicted that this isn't magical. In terms of it is cursed. But I like the damage. I like everything it does. But it also is kind of weird that it's not like a plus value. It's not like a +1 and +2.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The fact that it's not, it probably does. Actually, you didn't write it in here. And again, let me know if this happens later. Does this do magical damage? Cosmic. It says in the effects. Okay, cool. Thank you. I don't know if that was to my specific question now, but okay. I'm just really curious because it should act as a magical weapon, I'm assuming.
I believe so. Especially if it's legendary, if it's coming from the Yeah,
it has to be at least some level of magic.
Put it this way. At the very least, the type of damage it does is magical damage.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting.
Yes.
Not necessarily saying that it deserves a plus value, but it has to be of magical damage.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go down to the effect. So far, I'm loving this. This is great. I hope we get a description of it too. Effect. So critical hit. Whenever you roll a nat 20 on an attack roll using this weapon, you witness a positive memory of the previous wielder or someone close to them. Until the next dawn, all future attacks with this weapon have a +1 to its attacks and total damage. The bonus stacks to a limit of 5. So for every crit, it basically becomes a +1 magical weapon, stacking up to +5 magical weapon anytime you roll a nat 20. Okay.
So,
and you get to witness a positive memory of the previous wielder or someone close to them. That one's interesting. That one, I don't want to make any negative comments because that's more, I'm realizing my initial hesitation with that is high point logic. But
I see what you're saying.
Otherwise, I like the crit concept. Nat 20 gives it a +1 up to a +5 every time you roll a nat 20. I like the idea of getting the positive memory, and it is only until the next dawn all future attacks get the +1. So if you just in one,
so if you have a really good day, you can get a +5 weapon, which is unheard
until the next
of.
dawn, though.
So
you have to just be slogging it that whole day.
Yes.
Like you have to just be sitting there slogging it. But that's interesting. Okay, so it does have a stacking magical effect. That is a pretty high bar. I would almost. So again, outside of the high point logic of the memories that it pulls, because that's my only thing that I don't want to say I dislike, but the only thing I would change is whose memory and how it pulls. But that's semantical logic. What I would almost like to see, because it's only until the next dawn, I'd really be interested to see if this had a crit on a 19.
Right.
Because again, it's just to give that extra 5%, so it's a 10% chance at that point of being able to crit. It would help really build that effect. I know it's a cursed weapon, so we haven't gotten there yet.
No, I feel that.
The way I'm looking at it is I would feel a little bit better if I could crit on a 19 with it, because then I feel like it's actually obtainable in the same day to get up to a 5 and need it, instead of get that 5 at the last fight of the day, right? Like being able to work up through a couple, encounters and actually feel like it's actually able, even in one encounter, to potentially get up to a +3 in a single encounter, right? But yeah, other than that, I think that's great though. I love the effect. I wouldn't change the effect at all. I just, in terms of how it racks up, I don't even think that replacing it the next dawn is a problem. When I was reading it, my first thought was that it was going to go up with critical, up to +5 with critical hits, but it would go down with critical misses. Just as I was reading it, that's where my mind initially went to is, okay, so it's going to be a crit up, crit down situation. But the fact that it replaces at dawn, it's like, oh, actually, that's kind of more cool. Like, it doesn't make it as OP. Though, again, becoming from because it's not coming from a god. I think if it was like the god of death, then it should totally be a crit up, crit down situation, right? Like, because kind of like just like the flow of things. But being the avatar of death, I actually like that it resets at sunrise, because it's more about getting the job done in that time frame. So yeah, that's interesting. I like that, and I think the cap at +5 is absolutely fantastic. If a fighter is using it, maybe might have the ability as a class feature rather than part of the weapon's magical effects. Yeah, that is true, because I think fighters do get crit at 19, right?
I think it's the champion fighters that get that.
Okay, so so he would allow that crit to take effect.
I wonder if a barbarian could use this, because technically I think there's a certain type of barbarian that can get that as well.
Yeah, so that'd be cool. So Cosmic saying that in chat, like if they had the class feature, he would be okay with that. Like having a crit at 19.
Got it. Okay.
All right, so critical miss. Whenever you roll a nat 1 on an attack roll using this weapon, you witness a negative memory of the previous wielder or someone close to them. Until the next dawn, all future attacks with this weapon have a -1 to the attack rolls and total damage. This penalty stacks up to a -5. Additionally, whenever additional nat 1s are rolled while the penalty is maxed out, you lose a point from your intelligence score, as the memories become too much to bear and weaken your mental capacity. Note, if the DM runs out of ideas for the previous wielder's memories, they can draw on the creature being attacked instead. Okay, that's cool. I like that he adds that in there to just give people a better idea of how to use what it's doing. That's the cursed part. So it's cursed because it can go up every day. It can go up, but let's say you're having a really shitty day and you're just nat 1ing left and right. If you go to nat 5 and then you nat 1 more time, you lose an intelligence point.
Wait. My question is this. Do the nat 1s not reset at dawn?
No, it does. Additionally, until the next dawn, all future attacks are -1 up to a -5.
Okay.
But if you go past that, so okay, we're gonna circle back to that, because as a cursed item, that's not the worst curse, because it's very manageable. Just stop using the weapon after 4 fails. You know what I mean? Like, if it's everything after the 5th one,
right?
Just have a backup weapon. Like, we'll get to that later of options of what I would think of getting around that, but
to make you like, hey, if this is your weapon, this is your only weapon, or something. But then
again, whoa, hold on, I might be jumping the gun here. It is cursed. Being a cursed weapon, in my opinion, immediately implies that you don't want to give it up.
That you don't want to use anything other than it.
The fact that it's cursed implies that once you touch it, you are bound to it. You can't remove it from you unless it's forcefully removed, and you'll defend yourself. And you'll defend, like, you will find reasons, and you, no matter what your alignment, the idea is that you'll find reasons to justify why you need to hold on to it. And in that particular case, you would still justify, like, no, this is going to be the one. You know what I mean? Like, because it's cursed, you would justify that it's going to still work if you're still in combat. So, interesting. Interesting. I have a question for you, Cosmic. You don't have to answer right now if you're going to do... Okay, so he says, so the -1 to attack rolls and damage rolls do reset, but the intelligence score decrease never resets. If your intelligence becomes 0, you die from the effect. You become the next avatar of death.
If you're what?
So
if your intelligence first of all, I feel like you would be a blithering idiot before die.
So I was actually just thinking that, in my opinion, because I think the average creature, like the average animal, is like 2 or 3 intelligence, 2 or 3. I would almost venture to say if you drop below 5, or if you hit 5, the scythe is now more powerful than you, is more intelligent than you, and basically like takes you over or has like a psychic battle with you. And if it wins, or if you lose another intelligence point, like if you win and then try to attack again, at that point you were too stupid to fight back, and I would put that a lot higher than 0, because again, if you're at 1, are you even fighting in the fight anymore, or is the scythe taking over your body like a zombie?
So you remember we were talking a couple streams ago about certain spells that don't work on creatures that don't have a certain intelligence, and that intelligence is 4 or higher.
Yeah,
like, or if you have 4 or lower, this spell doesn't affect you,
something
or
like
something
5
like that.
starts the combat. Like at 5, the scythe would begin to try and convert you.
Yes.
And you can fight back, you can do a roll, but if you lose again, if you lose anything more, it automatically would like take you over or convert you to the avatar.
Right.
Because again, the avatar's not dumb. The avatar wouldn't have 0 hit point, 0 intelligence. And unless you're saying that once you drop into you can no longer function as a human, the scythe is now basically puppeteering you.
Right.
You know what I mean? But then at that point, why wouldn't it turn you into the app? You know what I mean? Like at that point, it's basically the same thing of you might as well just become the avatar at that point.
I mean, if it's going to just puppet you until your actual death, and then once you actually die, then you become the avatar of death.
And that's why I would just be, I would think that, and it would be really interesting because if you did do it at like the 5 level, it would be really interesting if there was a spell that could drop your intelligence even temporarily. Like if there was any way to drop someone's intelligence, you could actually make them be combative with the scythe early.
Interesting.
Like you're in the middle of a battle and you're like, by the way, you just lost a intelligence point because you failed too many times. Well, guess what? Lose 2 more. Now have that internal battle, bitch. Like you could literally like almost take out the player by fucking with their intelligence. Before I go, Cosmic, again, let me know if this is already answered later, and I'll get to it because we're going to get to the how to obtain. I am curious though. Does the curse only apply after you've killed the avatar of death and it's a mortal curse, or does this curse actually apply to the current avatar of death that you would fight? Like, as in, if there was any way that you could drop their intelligence, like, do they have a set intelligence? Can you drop it to where they die from the scythe? Like, can you, if they fail, if in battle, if you're fighting them, if there was a way that you could make them roll a nat 1, or if the DM, if you, Cosmic, as the DM were to roll a nat 1 as the avatar of death, would you then apply the -1 for the rest of the battle? And then if it happened again, would it be a -2?
Right.
Or is this only one of those curses that affect mortals? Where you have to kill the avatar. Once you pick it up, you're immortal. You're affected until it basically tries to convert you into one.
Right.
By dropping your intelligence.
I do kind of like that.
So it rests in the mortal world until someone abuses it.
Yeah.
To the point to where they drop too low in intelligence. Yeah. So I'm just really curious, Cosmic, if the person that at the avatar of death that you get it from is also afflicted by this curse. How to obtain. So it is dropped from the avatar of death, which takes the form of an undead half-skeletal Haragon. That's a lot of words. Undead half Haragon. What is?
I think the Haragon, isn't that the rabbit folk?
Oh, that's your rabbit. Yeah, I think that's one of his, right?
I mean, he does have one. We were talking about didn't he have a monk that was a Haragon?
Let's see. Let's go. Let's make sure we have this right. Do we have? D&D Wiki.
Cosmic says it should only affect the mortal, but I like the idea of it applying to the avatar as well.
That's cool. Yeah, it would be interesting that because if the site's goal is to always have an appropriate master, like let's say it was the god of death that created it,
right,
to be held by the avatar that because he has multiple avatars to help balance everything. So the idea that the scythe always wants a master, but it will only accept an avatar of death. So if a mortal touches it, its goal is now to put that mortal in the position to be turned into the avatar of death.
Interesting.
And the only way it can do that is to basically it dies and it resurrects it as the avatar of death, or its intelligence drops so low that they are no longer capable of wielding it, and then it turns them into the avatar of death.
See, I really like that.
So the god of death doesn't have to bother with. He has all of these artifacts, right? He has these avatars out there, but he doesn't have to worry about it because the artifact itself basically has a self-correcting tool, or like
it's
it self-corrects. Interesting. Haragon is the rabbit folk. Okay, so we have a rabbit folk. So the avatar of death takes the form of an undead half-skeletal Haragon. That sounds monstrously disgusting and terrifying.
I need to know. I need to know what size category this Avatar of Death is.
Yeah,
is this a gargantuan Haragon?
No, I'm assuming large or probably maybe large. I don't think huge. I think maybe that, because I mean, because it is a humanoid, right? The Haragons are humanoid, yep, right? Yep. I think. Let's look at.
Traditionally, they're only medium.
Okay, yeah, they are. You know.
So like.
So likely medium or large, preferably one size bigger than the PC that summoned it. I think large would be good, especially because, you know, like how they look if they're normally medium. Having just a large, rabbit folk just walk up to you you've never seen a rabbit folk that big.
In this giant scythe.
Oh yeah, no, I think that would be and then it's just like just half skeletal, like you just see like half its face is just like just flesh and the other half is just a skull. Like that would be okay. Yeah, that's terrifying. I like this idea. Okay, and then inspiration. So the weapon's name. Okay, so here interesting. Okay, so the weapon's name combined with. Okay, so the weapon's name combined with Japanese mythology about the moon god, mixed with the more modern and classical depiction of death / the Grim Reaper was the inspiration for this weapon. It is why the weapon is a scythe. The effects are not related to the inspiration. Okay, so the idea being a multi-inspired figure, and then the scythe coming from the more like Grim Reaper side,
right?
And then the damages and the effects are not related to that. The 5d8 damage is based on the weapon's rarity, 1d8 per rarity level. And since the natural 20 effects are based on memories, I figured the second damage would best fit. And fantastic, fantastic reasoning behind all of that. Donnie Darko style, yeah. So,
I love Donnie Darko.
What I'm thinking about this is, I mean, really, at this point, the only thing it's missing, in my humble opinion, is just a bitchin' visual description. Just an
of the actual scythe itself.
Just it is a scythe. I get that, but the only thing I could ask for, Cosmic, because you've done everything. You've brilliantly described it. You've given us a good, well balanced weapon. It doesn't feel OP. It doesn't feel underpowered. It just feels like it could be part of something bigger. It could be more powerful, but it does what it needs to do, because again, it's the Avatar of Death. It's not the god. It's the deck of many things Avatar as well. So it's not even a normal Avatar of Death like the God of Death has like minions that he does things with. This is a very specific locked away demon-esque entity that was locked away in the deck of many things. I love
that it's created for the card, man. That's crazy.
And that's what I'm saying. Like imagine this entity would like this was
off the page.
Yeah, like but the idea that this weapon is this entity's weapon, right? So there's a lot of different concepts, but Cosmic, now you've just made me think. Okay, wait a second. So we were talking about the concept of like, you know, the way I interpret it as like the scythe wants to have a master, right? Because of it has the potential to turn you into the Avatar of Death. If it does that mean once like you drop below the intelligence, right? Like let's say the scythe wins, or let's say you die and you fall to the ground. Does your body clutching, you know, the scythe, does your body shrivel, shrink, flatten, and turn into a card? Once it actually turns you into the Avatar of Death, do you turn back into the card? And then like you could actually have it to where like the wind, like a magical gust of wind just floods up and the card's gone.
And you just go...
Because it has to go find its way to a new deck of many. Yeah, it will go find its way into a new deck of many. But the idea that if it wins, if the scythe wins and makes you the Avatar of Death, would you not turn back into the card? Because now it's complete. Cycle complete. You summoned it, you've defeated it, you became it. Cycle over. You should become the card, right? You go back into, or is that how a deck of many is created? Once you are the new Avatar of Death, you create your own deck of many. What if like in your own you could have your own private lore that the creation of a deck of many things is the Avatar of Death, and the deck is again like his calling. He builds the deck of many things around him to get you to use it, just so you can call him out to do his like.
Okay, so
it would just be such a cool concept.
I have a question.
Oh, this would be so cool.
Because if that happens, would it be possible for the original deck that the Avatar of Death was pulled from, right? To still be out there somewhere. So say that Avatar of Death card gets pulled and he comes out and he wins. He kills whoever summoned him, right? And so now he's just out. He's just reigning terror until somebody defeats him. Right?
Because you'd think that like it would have like, because it's the deck of many things, you think that it would have like a time frame, right? Like it would eventually turn back into a card
if he kills the person.
Like he kills the person, and because that's the whole thing. All he wants to do is kill people. So he gets that soul, he eats it, he goes back into his deck,
kind of like a Meeseeks box.
And
he does the job,
so
and then poof.
The whole. I just love the idea that of this custom idea that a deck of many things isn't created by wizards or by humans or by mortals, but it's literally almost like a mimic. It's like a divine a divine level creature's version of a mimic where they become the deck of many things just to get you, and it's their power, it's their magic doing all these fancy things until you pull them. And that's the deal, right? You finally pull them and they get you. And it doesn't matter if you give it to somebody else. You've pulled more cards, right? They're going to get pulled eventually. They know it's a numbers game. So all they have to do is be enticing.
I just imagine there's a bunch of like leftover decks of many things, and they're like all floating out there, and a whole brand new one gets made around
that's
you.
Another thing that I've always thought about is no one ever gives a partially used deck of many things. Most people would discover a full deck. Can you imagine a deck that only has 2 cards left? Because the big question is, what happened to because the big question is, did the last person pull the death card, the instant death card, or the summon card, or is it that they pulled every good card and then they just ditched it because they know it's not worth the rest? If you got a deck of many things with 2 pulls left, you have a huge.
That's
either like it's the literal oh man,
what's that briefcase game? I feel like it's like that.
Deal or No Deal or whatever.
Yeah.
Cosmic says he's always sucked at descriptions, but decent for the flavor, but not things like art. Yeah, I mean, even just if I'm just thinking of even just it doesn't have to be elaborate, but even if the material. Knowing what the material is, does it shine? Does it shimmer? Is it dark? Is it black? Is it
decaying? Is it made out of bone?
Is it made out of glass? You know what I mean? I think about that. I think of what does the blade look like? Is it ornate like one of those can you go to a grocery store, or not a grocery store, like a gas station, and you see all the cool fantasy knives? Is it ornate like that, or is it old school? Does it literally look like a wheat field scythe where it's just a very thin blade, maybe super jagged? Maybe it's you see a dark blade, but then you see the very thin line of the tip, the sharpened edge is just a sliver, but everything else is black. It could be shadowy. It doesn't have to be super elaborate, but any idea of what you're thinking in terms of how it represents when you imagine this avatar of death, this rabbit folk. Is this, again, does it look like a farm tool? Does it look like a battle weapon?
I am curious, and I don't know if this is a part of the lore that he was talking about in at the end, but why rabbit folk was the Japanese origination because I know they have monkey folk in some of their lore, and I know that sometimes they use other sorts of
well, he's saying the lunar cycle, so it could just be the year of the rabbit, idea, because he's using that.
Actually, that's very fair.
That would be Chinese. That's not Japanese, right?
Is it?
Yeah, that would be the Chinese New Year. So wrong area. But he did say that we're the ones inspiring him now. So hey, finally, it only took 30 submissions for us to finally inspire Cosmic. Yay! We finally gave him an idea because he doesn't like people's ideas. He's mentioned that where he would prefer to come up with it on his own. So ironically, he's our biggest submitter, even though he doesn't like other. I think it's more he doesn't like using other people's ideas, but I do think he likes the process of understanding how, because I think we all like the process of what other people see when we write something, because what you do, I like what I've written, but how does it sound to you?
Yes,
I don't know how this comes
I want to know how
across.
somebody else is going to take it apart. I want to know what you're going to do. I want to know what you're
going
to
find
on the inside.
I count that as a W because for the first time
I finally
gave
guys.
And I didn't
Come
give him
on now.
it's not like he's going to take the idea. I just finally gave him something to think about. Finally. It just took him 20 fucking items. Hell yeah. But okay, so he says that, so in terms of the scythe look, he says he was thinking more like the crescent moon itself. So I'm thinking very
that's cool.
Exaggerated. Instead of like the normal scythe, which is pretty long and a slow arc, I kind of like this, not like, super like around the corner.
Not like a circle, but.
Yeah, not like a super around, but just kind of this, more, what's that weapon? That sword that kind of like comes out and then does the whole crescent moon. There's a sword that does it. It's the Egyptian sword.
Oh yeah. They have the scimitars are kind of like that.
Yeah. Like sickle like. Yeah. So almost like this. So almost like a sickle, but not so. I would say not so much half moon. I would say, but definitely more of that arc, that bigger arc for sure. He says it would also be that's the scythe's blade, but that'd be too specific time of day or realistic lunar cycle. Let's see. In the game Okamiden, there's a boss you fight, and they control a giant rabbit-like statue rocket with that name. Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay.
I'm gonna look that up.
Are they wielding a scythe like the one you're thinking of? Or is it just that's just like the reason for like the rabbit folk like creature? But now that, okay, so he did mention this though. So he was thinking like the crescent moon itself, but that'd be too specific to like the time of day. Okay, so that's the reason for the rabbit folk, that game.
Okay.
Or that what is it? The game, yeah. So that game is the reason for the rabbit folk. So here's what I'm thinking, Cosmic. You were saying something about the specific time of day or realistic lunar cycle. So if you can imagine like what a normal farming scythe looks like, right? Because you have like a sickle, which is very, very exaggerated in terms of like how the arc is. But I'm thinking something, a little bit more than a traditional scythe, but a little bit less than a sickle. But normally the blade isn't that thick. It's maybe like an inch or two thick.
Right.
And it's just the whole length away. Imagine this exaggerated scythe, right? But I don't know how you would do this, but almost like it's almost an exaggeratedly thick blade, like maybe 6 inches thick. But kind of like how a very sharpened blade that was like blackened, you'd only see like the shine of the very like edge of the blade, and then everything else would be blackened.
Right.
Imagine if it looked like that, but the dark and light part of the blade, the size of the light part of the blade, matches that of the lunar cycle. So at a full moon, the entire blade is lit up and shining.
Interesting.
And then if it's waning, the dark starts at the blade and goes up. And then when it's waxing, the blade becomes white again. And then the blade starts to, from the tip to the backside of the blade goes white and then dark. You know what I mean? So it goes in the phases of the moon. So the blade never changes size unless you wanted to go the extra mile and do size of change or change in size. But the idea that it's just this like super thick, crescent. So it like starts out like 6 inches and then just like curves down, and then curves down to a thing. But this look of it, right? Like the bottom would be white, this would be black.
Yeah.
And it would just start to grow to a full moon.
Yeah.
And then it would start to darken from the bottom and go here. And then it would be a black blade on a moonless night. And then once not on the moonless light, but on basically like the full dark moon.
I would almost say you get advantage on your attacks, but you don't get advantage on your attacks.
Things like, I mean, again, you could add in custom things where depending upon what's happening, like if you pulled this card during an eclipse, you know what I mean? Like you pull it during an eclipse. Dude, you pull it during an eclipse, he doesn't have it. Or it's fully black, so you can't see it, so it has like certain abilities.
Yeah,
I don't know. It would just be kind of cool. Like he mentioned the idea of like the time of day, and I'm just thinking like, how cool would that be that it matches whatever the moon is? Because again, you wouldn't ever see it change. You would only ever see it when it was summoned. But just the idea that it would match the cycle of the moon. So if it's full moon, the whole blade's just shining, and it just would look intimidating as fuck.
That would be so crazy.
We have a couple of things. In Metrology, getting a bit inspired. I want to make a day-night weapon now where the weapon changes back and forth. Yeah, hell yeah. That would be dope. Like, has different abilities at night or daytime. That would be fucking sick. I've actually had a weapon. I designed a weapon a long-ass time ago in a different campaign.
I like that idea.
Not for High Point, but I developed a weapon for a different setting, someone else's world. And it was a moonlight weapon. So based on the amount of moonlight it got,
it charged
it would have like more damage, and then it would charge for it would take a long, like the less moonlight, the longer it would take, like the more rounds it would take to do. I think it was Moonbeam was the spell, but on a full moon it took 1 round, and I could cast Moonbeam.
Interesting.
But if it was like a half moon, but yeah, that was it. It was a normal sword that just, if you were in direct moonlight, it worked, and I was able to convince the DM to let me do it even during the day as long as the moon was out.
That's kind of sick.
Because it was just moonlight, but it was at half damage. Like I only got the half value.
Right.
But yeah.
But still.
But yeah. So I do like the idea of a day-night weapon. That sounds so much more cooler. And then Cosmic says, like the idea of a weapon using something other than strength and dexterity, or even a specific skill. Yeah.
I really love that. Just that alone, the idea that you're using psychic damage, that you're using your history modifier because you're going into people's memories, like. That in and of itself, plus that whole no advantage or disadvantage, I freaking love that.
You know what would be more interesting too? No, because this is a deck of many things, I don't want to get too complicated. If this were something bigger, like a more common item in the realm, I'd want to get into a few more specifics. But because it's a deck of many things, I don't want to overcomplicate it. I think this is working just fine. I mean, even the idea of the scythe changing is kind of pedantic because it's only when you pull the deck of many things, right?
Right.
I mean, the idea that you would pull it at a specific time of lunar phase is a lot of detail to add if no one's really asking or paying attention, or if that's like not something that is like specifically known about it, right? Like if no one knew, no one would notice. Unless you have to call it out.
It wouldn't make, yeah.
And then what kind of cool like feature is it? You're just here to kill the avatar and take the scythe, right? Like, again, unless you were able to take the scythe and then it changed with you, and then you just got to see it change color all the time. That's whatever you want to call it. But yeah, no, I think it's great. I love the idea that it doesn't get advantage or disadvantage. That's so great. I love that it bypasses psychic resistance and immunities. That's so interesting. Yeah, no, it's great. I think just understanding what it looks like is the only thing that I'm missing, but I think we came up with a couple good ideas. Cosmic says the biggest thing about the curse is since it can reduce the user's intelligence score if too many net ones are rolled, that itself can lower the attack modifier lower than -5.
The attack modifier. Oh, yeah. Because when
your intelligence is directly linked to your history.
Yes.
So as you lose intelligence, you lose the ability to hit with it.
That's great.
Which again makes sense. So yeah. Okay. So going back over this, I think the only things in terms of high point modifications, just to kind of give that like a once over. With high point modifications, I think the only thing I would change is the memories that you get. I'm not. Right. Just from a high point of view and what makes sense to me, I don't know if memories from the previous wielder make sense because, again, it's from the deck of many things. It's from the Avatar of Death. If you're making this entity a lore-based entity where, it was trapped in the deck of many things, or kind of like what we were talking about where it used the deck of many things to get called, like it's trapped in a different universe or whatever, or a different dimension, and this is how it gets summoned or whatever. And there's a lot of different ways to, like, what it is, but unless what we were talking about before happens, where when you finally fail and it turns you into the Avatar of Death, you turn back into a card for another deck of many things. The idea that it takes memories from the previous wielders, it's like, is it just one of those things where once it's out, it's out? Like if you, like the first person to ever beat the Avatar of Death releases the scythe permanently. So maybe you don't find the scythe from
just the next avatar. Yeah.
But then again, it doesn't really help because the players would be supposedly the first people to remove it from the Avatar of Death. So how many memories from that avatar can they get? How many previous avatars were there, right?
Right.
So that's just where my logic starts to break down. Even though it's from the like the Avatar of Death from the deck of many things, I liked what Cosmic had mentioned about it being against the creature you attacked, because it's psychic damage against that creature, and this is the thing of the Avatar of Death. But the Avatar of Death isn't just taking life, it's taking your essence, it's taking your memories.
Yes.
So I think that when you gain a positive or negative memory, I think in a high point fashion, two things would happen. One, you're taking that memory from the thing you attacked. But the second layer, you were taking that memory.
Oh, so yeah.
So if you crit success, you successfully take permanently that positive memory from that person. You now have it in full view, and you get to replay it. You get all the warm and fuzzies. You get all the details. You get that knowledge. They don't anymore. It's gone. That nice, happy memory that may have been the last thing keeping them going, that's gone permanently. That would be one of the big changes.
That's crazy.
It's permanent. But the same thing for the negative ones. You could literally empower them in the middle of battle by taking away their fears, by taking away things. Like, it's just the idea of that's the curse, is you now permanently imagine if you had a small a D6 roll, and for a 1 or a 2 if you rolled a 1 on a D6, you not only get a bad memory, but it's debilitating. It's a fear. Now you actually have a fear. Like, you then pick a random race. Like, now you fear them. In battle, you'll have disadvantage against those. Like you could literally make that curse one step forward by making it take that memory out. Because, again, the idea behind the Avatar of Death and what this weapon does, I'm imagining that it's literally removing it from that person and giving it to the wielder.
Why is it giving me penance stare vibes from the Punisher?
Oh yeah,
a little bit, where he all the suffering of all the people that have come before. That's crazy.
So he says, Cosmic says that it's meant to be implied it's from the creature before they become the Avatar of Death, so likely thousands of years ago. So again, assuming that the current Avatar of Death was another creature that became the Avatar and all of that, there's going to be tons of memories. So yeah, so I don't disagree. I don't think that's bad for the right setting. If I were to mold it into high point, I would like it to be focused on the one that you're attacking. Because the idea is that, again, it's a curse. Not only are you going to get the positives and negatives from the memories you grab, but the other person's also going to feel the opposite. They're going to get the boon from the lack of bad memory,
right,
or they're going to get a bane from losing a good memory. And that can, and imagine that could be used in and out of combat. Like, the idea that this thing could be used as a torture device. And you could, now granted it sucked because you have to crit in order to be able to do it. But the idea is there, right? That you could actually
where was I feel like I was talking with somebody about this recently, but how likely or possible do you think it would be for someone to just sit here and try and spam? I mean, 100% you are risking losing intelligence by doing so, but how realistically beneficial could something like that be? If we're trying to, to break it, right? If we're trying to do all the things.
You would have to get something with an impressive amount of hit points. You'd have to torture a dragon, torture a lich.
So you'd say it only works on things that are living. You couldn't attack roll a door. You couldn't
no, because those things would it would technically, I think that this would qualify as only as something that has memory, so therefore something that only has intelligence.
Actually, there's a lot of inanimate things that don't, because it is psychic damage. That's right. If there's no psyche, it's gotta,
and that's why. And so I would just say that my slight tweak would be where the memories come from. That's my only concern is because it's so specific. Now, again, if this was a normal weapon from that was out and about in the world, I kind of like the idea of getting memories from the previous people and that having some factor into the setting and the lore. But as is, and the idea of being able to take this and use it somewhere else, from the idea of the deck of many things, like, hey, if my characters also happen to kill the Avatar of Death, I'll also throw them the bone.
Maybe they can get this.
I would just say that, it makes more sense that as you're wielding it, it's against the person that you're fighting. Because again, the memory you take is so debilitating, it takes an intelligence point. I really feel like that would be so much better if you're literally doing that, from the enemy.
Yeah.
Because it also implies that the original Avatar of Death had that ability. Like, you could say that you as a mortal can only crit to get these things because it takes everything to be that, like...
Right.
The Avatar of Death, the true Avatar of Death...
That's just what it did.
Yeah, it was able to choose, and then maybe after a time, that's why it got trapped. It gets trapped because it decided it was too, bad about deciding. Like, it took too many good memories. It decided it wanted to be greedy, and instead of being balanced, it was greedy. There's so many different ways that you can build that lore. But yeah, that would be my main change is just the memories. Everything else I like, the intelligence I like.
I do want to agree with something you said earlier. I think just because. And maybe it should be rare enough that like it doesn't happen, but like once in a blue moon. But I do think that something could be said for allowing the ability for the crit hit ability to proc more, right? Because it resets at the end of every day. You only have like a fairly short, like, how many battles are you going to do in that day? You're going to do 2-3 battles, right? Yeah. I mean, could I get 5 crits in those 2-3 battles? Sure.
That's why for me, I think the second thing I would consider for high points purposes, I would remove the Dawn reset, because it would make more sense, especially if you think about it from the point of view of the Avatar of Death. He's a deck of many things. He doesn't get pulled very often, right? So if he's not going to get pulled very often, what's the likelihood that he's going to not only get pulled, but have a fight long enough with one or multiple entities that pulled him?
That's even going to benefit
in order for him to rack this up. And then the moment he's winning the fight, he goes back into the card. He's never going to keep his stacks. But imagine the Avatar of Death is, the last time he got pulled, he got 3 crits out. So when you pull him, he already comes out with a +3.
Right.
Like, I like that idea more, is the crit and miss go with you, but I like this. Crit success. Crit nat 20 goes up by 1 up to 5, stays with you. Just as long as you don't nat 1, stays with you. The moment you lose you hit nat 1, you get reset.
Okay.
Then I would say, so you reset to no pluses.
Okay.
I would then say every nat 1 after that, you get the bad memory and lose an intelligence.
So I don't think nat 1 resets you, and then you
get one free. You get 1 free nat 1 for every. So the very first time you grab it, you get 1 free nat 1. For every crit nat 20, you get 1 free nat 1 after that. So you get 1 free nat 1 for grabbing it, for picking it up, and you only get 1 free. You earn 1 free nat 1, not for every nat 20,
right?
But once you've had a nat 20, you get 1 free nat 1 again. Then every nat 1 after that gives you a bad memory, loss of intelligence, and if that's too harsh, I would say gives you the bad memory, and then it's a 50-50. You roll percentiles. 50% chance you lose an intelligence point.
So it's no longer at the past the -5. It's every time.
I think that because you're giving the +5 permanent, up to a +5 permanent, as long as you don't fuck up, it needs to be a lot harsher. That curse.
So if that's the case, then what happens? Is it the opposite true? When I hit a nat 20, does my negatives reset?
Yeah, it would reset to 0. So I would be okay with the reset to 0, but then you still have to climb back up.
Right.
But 1 nat 20, or again, if you really want to lean into the curse, 1 nat 20 only resets you by 1. So 20s only reset you by 1 up.
So you got to fight your way back up, but
I think that makes more sense for the curse.
Down hard.
I think that makes more sense for the curse, and I think that you get if you think it's too harsh to lose the intelligence that quickly, because again, I think that getting a nat 20 would reverse it. You get your intel. I mean, I know he wants it to be permanent, but I still think the permanent's better instead of gaining it back. But I think gaining the negatives back from the nat 20, I think one at a time makes it harder. I would also be down to say that for every -1 after the first one, you get a 50-50 chance. Either lose an intelligence point or gain a fear. And basically, whatever that fear is, if that's in battle, you get disadvantage. You can't go near it. You can't approach it.
Right.
You can't talk around it. Like, literally, you get a 50-50 chance of whatever you hit them and you got a bad memory so bad that you either gained their fear and they've lost it, or it was just so traumatizing you lost an intelligence point. I think that makes it more curse-like. I think it makes it more risky to use. But
I do think that...
But again, that benefit of that much damage, but getting it up to a +5 and getting all these awesome memories. And again, the memories could be things like after, you could even say once you make max, right? So you get +5, that's the only benefits you're getting. Once you've reached +5, any crit after that, maybe then you can start saying, okay, now you've gained a positive memory, you've learned something. Maybe you've learned how to read a certain new language, but that's it. Can't write, can't speak.
Right.
But then again, so there's benefits, but the benefits are so much smaller than the negatives, because that's to me what a cursed item is, right? It's forcing you to want to use it.
I definitely like the idea of the ones dropping your 20 back down to 0. And,
I really think
and then
that
your
would
20s help. And then your 20s having you crawl up regardless. Because that to me definitely feels like no matter what, you feel like you're fighting an uphill battle using this cursed weapon. Like you feel like it's so difficult to get it to where you get it and keep it where you need to. Like one time you finally get to 5 and you're like, boom, I got 1 hit in out of 5. I got 2 hits in out of 5.
Or
I got 3 hits and I got
since level 10 to level 15 or level 15 to 20, you've been just rolling with this +5. You've just been rolling. Then one fight for the BEG, you get it, that nat 1. And then it's like you roll into that BBEG fight with just a scythe. Like that's the idea. Is like, I think as it's written, I just feel like if I were to introduce this into High Point, the immediate thing I would do with it is be like, okay, so I just have a backup weapon and wait till the next dawn. Mm-hmm. Like there's no, unless the curse physically makes it to where I cannot use another weapon, why would I not just know to stop fighting?
Right.
Retreat, give up. Like it's like it's almost too easy to get out of the negatives, where I like the idea, like you were saying, like if the negatives are always on your heels, the moment you roll in at 1, something bad happens. Just you've lost all your progress, or you've got the bad memory. Now you have a new fear, or and again, the fear can be of a larger thing, like a whole race of people. Like you could literally get like a fear of their childhood or a fear of one person. Maybe you can get a hatred. Maybe it's a bad memory, but then you get a hatred. Maybe you become racist towards like dwarves or something because, like that person was just tortured by dwarves because it was like, a soldier or something that you used it on. Like there's so many ways that you can twist the bad memory and force a player character change. Like imagine that your party are good people, but suddenly one of your players, because of the scythe, is now just flat out cannot be around a certain race. Otherwise, they're just going to be insulting and downgrading and just want to like kill them, right? Like that could just be a total party shift because of this cursed weapon. That to me is a curse, right? Not just the person slowly degrading mentally until they become the new avatar, but something that truly would affect everyone around them, because I mean, that's my style of cursed items. I like it to have an incorporeal AoE, if we can call it that.
Sure.
Because it's not a true AoE, doesn't affect anybody else, but it affects the whole party.
Yeah.
And that's the way I kind of like to flavor my my curses. But again, these are just High Point modifications. Venturology might be a good opportunity to do something like a sanity score. And Cosmic says it's a little bit too much, 3.5. And yeah, I will be honest too. I've messed around with sanity before. It's rough. It's so difficult to do sanity. I would highly suggest, if anyone wants to do sanity, do what I do and borrow a Q from Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, okay.
Read up on Call of Cthulhu, read their rule book, steal their sanity, you'll be golden.
Steal their sanity.
So yeah, so other than the memories of how you steal them, other than how I would do how the crits work, I think again I would do 20s get reset by immediate nat 1, and then every nat 1 after that I think should be the hit.
Right.
Whether it's to intelligence or 50-50 intelligence, fear. I really think that makes this much harder. And I think it falls more in line with the concept of the avatar of death just consumes memories, right? I imagine that when you're that entity, when you become the avatar of death, it's almost like, how we think zombies want brains, vampires, need blood,
right.
Undead, like everything feeds, everything needs something, right? Imagine that when you become the avatar of death, what you need is memories. You are hungry for memories, good or bad. But because of the way that this curse works, the reason why the Avatar of Death is so aggressive and angry, and just when you pull him, he's ready to fight, is because look how, if you do my version, right, where it's a lot worse with Nat 1s, the longer you are the Avatar of Death, the more likely you are going to have fed off of bad memories. You are going to be so tainted, so disgusted, so mentally, tweaked, that the moment you get pulled, all you care about is more. Right. You are going to be savage. That is why you've degraded, and that makes sense why one of the effects could be lowering your intelligence, because it's easier to make you savage, and that's what the Scythe wants. That's what the Avatar wants, right? Because the Scythe, I imagine that when you have an item like this, because it's coming from the Avatar of Death, the Scythe and the Avatar are one and the same, right? Yeah. The Scythe isn't the Avatar of Death. Its wielder is, but it's not the Avatar of Death without the Scythe, and the Scythe can't do it without its wielder. So it's almost that whole thing of
you are it because of it's almost like a symbiotic relationship, kind of.
Right, but in order to truly be that way, so imagine you can also have it in your lore that there is a good Avatar of Death. You pull it and it's benevolent. This particular one has had just amazing luck with good memories, and it doesn't go around trying to harm people. Well, or no, this one it would be weird, right? Because you have too many bad memories would make you savage, and then you would just feral. You're just going after all memories. But too many good memories mean that you're addicted. You have no empathy. You don't care that you're taking these good memories from other people. You just want good memories. So you become greedy. So you're not there for destructive purposes. You're not there to murder everyone. I just want to know what you've experienced. Just want to know what's good in your life. Like, imagine that twist. It doesn't come out and just start attacking. Imagine it's almost like creepy, right? It's almost like psychopathic creepy, where it's like, it's nice to you, but then all of a sudden you get this like, you like my skin, like you like my skin. Like, you want to wear me like you like me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it would be just really interesting to have this concept of what would it be if it took so many positive thoughts. Would it still be greedy and hungry? Would it be benevolent? Would it tell you, would it warn you? Be like, you should run. You should be far away from me, because I will. Like there's just so many ways you could play that personality depending upon how it fed. And I think that it would make more sense to give it much harder time to be positive. Because then you think about it, it's like, to be positive, you have to kill, but then it would not want to kill, but it has to kill to feed. To get positive, it would be such fun. So again, these are the things in High Point that I like to do. But other than that, how to obtain it, I think, is fantastic. I think that the damage is great. That would be it. The only changes in High Point would be who the memories come from, and how the crits work, like just in terms of how they stack in which direction. But I like what they stack. I like what they do to the weapon. I wouldn't change any of the effects. And really, there's just so much lore to play with here. There's just so much ways to spin this. If you guys out there are interested in using something like that, especially, I guess, just right out the gate, I'm really impressed, because normally we get something from Cosmic from his like setting that is like really, really custom to him and like from the ground up. And I'm so impressed with this one, because I love the idea of taking something like, again, what I've done with High Point, how I've taken what there is lore wise, but changed it not to the point to where it affects anything else. It doesn't actually affect the flow of how that timeline works, but I change it to make it work for High Point as well. Right. And I like that that's what he's done with the Deck of Many Things. We know of the Deck of Many Things. We know it's this magical item. We don't quite know who created it, but it has all these fantastic things. And he took something,
death comes from it.
And he took something inside and said, well, what if it just had something extra? What if it just also had this weapon? Like, it's just like, instead of having this whole elaborate thing that came from, deep in the core of his setting, I love the idea of doing that, of taking something that already exists, like what we talked about before. It's not a full homebrew, but it is an enhancement. That's exactly what I look at as homebrew, right? It's not I want to create my own thing and start from scratch. It's, how do I make this better? How do I make it more enticing? How do I make this shitty situation have a potentially good outcome? Right? I love that. I think that's
I was going to
ask
one
of my favorite aspects of it.
That was one of the things when you were first going through it. I was going to ask him what the stats of the Avatar of Death
I have no idea what the stats of the Avatar of Death should have. When I was looking up, I was getting mixed info. Some saying 14 in all sets, others saying 16. Well, let's find out. So let's see what D&D Beyond says. Oh, these are people asking about it. That's D&D Wiki's pretty good. So D&D Wiki says 16 across the board. I would probably trust D&D Wiki. Do we have a Crawford ruling? No Crawford ruling.
Interesting.
What's that?
Check the DMG. There might be an Avatar of Death in the DMG that has 16s across the board. I don't know what page exactly, but let me see if I can find out.
See, so Spirit of Death might be a little bit different. Nope, Spirit of Death also has 16s across the board. This one comes from the Book of Many Things. Equal to the size of creature that summoned it, undead, evil, neutral evil. Okay, so I also really like the fact that Cosmic says he'd like it one size above the caster, when normally it's one size, it's size equal to. So I do also like the difference there. Yeah, I think 16s across the board is probably the best way to go, unless you personally want to make any adjustments because of the Haragon or the size change. I think 16s would probably be very, very comfortable. Yeah, no, I really do think that 16s would be fine. Let's see, does this... Void, throw, and visor.
Yeah, but that scythe is going to make that avatar so much nastier. I like how it has no challenge rating.
The skull. Avatar of Death.
It should be on page 164 of the DMG.
Tries to have the summon death. A creature slain by an avatar of death can't be restored to life. Oh, we got to get into that in a second. You said DMG. 5th edition DMG?
Yes.
Let me find out. 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. What page?
It should be 164.
Avatar of Death. There you go, Cosmic. Avatar of Death, official 5th edition rule set. Avatar of Death has an armor class of 20. Hit points are half the hit point maximum of its summoner, and has 16s across the board. Now you don't have to worry about it. That is officially from the DMG. Yeah, so I really think that this is great. I think the changes that you've made for the setting, I think are great. Even reading this one, right? Like this one has Reaping Scythe. The avatar sweeps its spectral scythe through a creature within 5 feet, which is his is 10, dealing 7, 1d8 plus 3 slashing damage plus 4, 1d8 necrotic damage. I actually like Cosmic's a lot better than that.
Yeah. Does he get any sort of multi-attack with that?
Nope, it's just
the one.
Yeah, he has turning immunity, so you can't turn undead.
Yeah, good luck.
Which I think that even though Cosmic didn't write it, I don't think he's rewriting the whole avatar. So exactly. I think that would apply as well.
Yes.
I still think turning undead would not apply to his Avatar of Death. Incorporeal movement. So Cosmic, do you think that yours... I 100% believe that your version should also have turning immunity, because it does have psychic immunities, but the scythe can go through psychic immunities. But aside from turning immunity, do you does your Haragon version have the incorporeal movement? Can move through other creatures and objects that they were solid terrain. It takes 10d force damage if it ends its turn in an object. I'm really curious if you have that. He does say he's thinking it should have the same stats, AC, hit points, and abilities / features as the PC that summoned it. So it is a true challenge for the player and is almost like a Link versus Dark Link type of situation. That would be interesting to do that. So it's the same abilities and feats. So that means that you summon it. So it could also be a barbarian. So you summon it and then it rages. You summon it, then it has magic and it can start casting magic at you. You summon it and can it like? What if you're an archer?
Does it still wield the scythe?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like, does the scythe modify itself into different things? Cosmo says I would have to work on the avatar itself. It's about the weapon, not the avatar wielding it. Yeah. I mean, I was just curious if you had thought about that. But because this is much more about the scythe, right? You defeat the avatar of death, and then you get this particular scythe. They are not necessarily one and the same. But we were just looking that up for you. Excellent. Yeah. So aside from a few changes, I really like it though. This would be really fun to actually get as a player. So let's see here. Bam. So we'll call it 3. So -3, but +1, because it does give me the idea that I need to look through the deck of many things and start coming up with more personalized stuff. Like I like roll tables. I like things that are static like that. And usually I'll be dynamic with it in the moment.
Right.
But I don't know. Would I go... I do like the idea, though. I think it is inspiring to have used it. Whether it inspires me to actually do that, because it is something that I do, but I do think it's worth... I do think it's worth that. I do think it needs to be more curse-like, though. I think it needs to be more curse-like. Aside from your features, I really like it. You say that for literally every idea I submit. Will, you're good. What do you want? Submit a piece of shit, and then I'll tell you that it was crap. How about that? I mean, if you don't want me to tell you that you have good stuff, don't submit good stuff. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. Sorry that you have really good D&D ideas, my dude. Stuff. Trust me, it's hard. I try not to like give you just like maximum score. I actually try to be a little bit more critical with your stuff because I know like what quality you have. So I try to be really critical with my scoring with you because it's very, I don't want to just literally have everyone get, 8s and 9s across the board. Like I'm really trying to be critical, but we have very talented and very creative people that submit stuff. So
guys, give us more crap.
Yeah, I need to go back to D&D Beyond.
Don't do that.
I need to go back to D&D Beyond so we can get some like shitty scores.
We need to filter in some D&D. We just need you guys to know this is what crap looks like. This is what I'm just kidding. We love all of the stuff. We're not saying anything that's even got a low score is bad. All we're saying is how much he would put it into high point.
Yeah, it's how likely this would be to find its way into high point.
And that's the thing, like
yeah, I think I will give it a +1 for the fact that I think it deserves the +1 for being inspiring, even though it doesn't. Normally that is reserved for me going out and making a change to high point. But I think that, especially coming from Cosmic, who normally has a lot more like setting seated stuff, I think that this is actually really unique of an idea that stands out. So I think it'll get the +1 for that. The negatives are basically, it is just a little outside of the wheelhouse of high point because it is a little bit setting specific. Outside of that, there are a couple changes that I would make. So likelihood of being in high point, I think but again, I really do like it. I think we're going to have to have this one. Yeah, it doesn't deserve to go that low. Okay, yeah, no, with the +1, we will give this one a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Let's go. Go.
It couldn't go like its base score. Even outside the +1, I couldn't drop the base score under 4 because it's good. It's a good idea, and I could see myself using something similar again with some of the changes that I made. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I won't is it just doesn't fill a need. Like, I love the idea, and maybe one day if I have a group of players who grabs the deck of many things and finds it, I might recall back to this and think of something, but I mean, I'm not going to run out right now and go write up something.
Yeah.
But it does deserve that extra 1 point. But really, I mean, 5 out of 10 at base, because it is a good weapon. I would like to use that as a player. I can't really find anything wrong with it. It just doesn't fit high point it doesn't. I don't want to say high point standard. That sounds so bad. It doesn't fit the high point setting. It doesn't hit the logic behind it. But with the +1 of it being such a great idea and something that could be inspiring to other people to do, definitely gives it that 6 out of 10. Just because, I love it. I love the idea that it comes from the deck of many things.
Fire.
And again, because that doesn't make it feel too specific to one setting. So yeah. So 6 out of 10, what does that put as average?
I gotta get a system for average. I've been doing all these other little improvements, but I haven't. If I could set it up so all I have to do is filter for you, and then at the top it displays an average of whatever's right there, it would be so easy to do.
Oh, but you have to tell us you only average what's filtered, not average the whole thing.
Which is easy. There's a formula for that. I just haven't done it yet.
Okay,
right?
But yeah, can you give him his average real quick? How many items does he have now?
That I can figure out quicker.
So we'll find out for you, man. But yeah, good job, man. And then he says he does have a pretty OP item. It's his 9th level spell that only the BBG can use.
It's that's right.
Yeah, maybe he'll finally give us something that we don't like because it's too powerful. Maybe we'll give him like a 4 out of 10 for being too OP.
How dare you?
It'd be Cosmic's happiest day. He finally gets a bad score.
We still have a TBD from him, the Pinnacle. We still do not have a.
What happened with
that?
For that?
It's unfinished technically.
That's still right. Cosmic, you have to let us know when you finish
the
Pinnacle.
You have a total number of 16 items submitted.
16 out of submitted. What? Out of how many? 33, 34?
No, that's 44.
44. Okay,
44
so not
items.
Quite half. Not quite half, but almost.
Yes. Gosh. Let's see how quickly I can do this.
Out of 16, but it is the most. He leads. Like, if y'all ever want to catch up, and if y'all ever want to like topple Cosmic as the like leaderboard leader, not just with the high. I think he's the only one with the 10 out of 10, or he was at least the first. But not only is he at the top, but he has the most. If you guys ever want to catch up, y'all got to start submitting stuff because I don't think he's going to stop.
Just rapid fire.
I don't think he's going to stop.
We're here for that.
Yeah. We got to get some more. We got to get some challenges in. It can't just be the Cosmic leaderboard.
But it's okay that we sprinkle in some, like you said, some D&D Beyond stuff. Let's see what some of the lows actually look like.
Right. I mean, hey, they've surprised us. There's been a couple. There's been a couple really badly, rated ones that turned out to be kind of bangers. I guess there was only one. There was one that turned out to be a pretty good banger.
Yeah, there was wasn't that the healing cantrip?
Yeah. I think it was a healing one. Fantastic though. Thank you, Cosmic. Thank you so much for that submission. That was well worth the wait. That was really good. I know it wasn't worth the wait for you. I know you wish we would have done it like 3 weeks ago, but no, that was really, really nice. I am digging that whole like let's change the way we approach a weapon. The idea that it goes from memories, the idea that he's using a history check to get those memories and do it works. It works so well and I like it. 16 out of 44 items. I thought I had over 20 items submitted so far. I think that time I wanted an average. I thought my total items was higher than 16.
Well, let me go back and check. I don't.
Unless we were talking about your future items, because you had a few submitted already. So unless we were talking about how many total you would have, but 16 sounds right. Unless any of them got mislabeled. All right,
so I'm gonna run through these real quick, and you tell me, Cosmic, if you hear any that I missed. All right, so I have the Robe of Accumulative Knowledge, the Satchel of Individual Desire, the Cosminium Jewel, the Shield of Inversion, the Dragon Wing Shield, the Shard full set. So that's in here as its own line item because
there was multiple items.
Yes,
yeah.
that's so. Anyways, and then we have the Robe of Elemental Defense, which is also a part of that collection. We have the Double or Nothing Feat. We have the Pinnacle. That's the one we were just talking about. That's TBD. We have the Phoenix Folk Race subclass, or the subrace.
That was a good one.
And then we have the Gauntlets of
Regenesis.
That's the one, Regenesis. And then we have Doppelganger's Tunic. Another one of the BBEG items. And then we have, well, actually it's BGG, the bad guy group, whatever, it's fine. Then we have the Elemental Barrage spell that we did not too long ago.
That was a good one, yeah.
Then we have the Chronicles of a Forgotten Age, which is the tome that he gave us. And then we have the Impenetrable Warrior from a couple of weeks ago. And then we have today's.
Any we missed? Is there any on that list that you think that you submitted 16. That we? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all of them. That's all of what there's none that stand out to me. Now I know that we've done more than one review on a couple of them because I did a review and then we brought you in, so there may have been more times that we covered them. But yeah, Cosmic, let us know if there's any that you think that you submitted that we don't have. It may have just been like in the spreadsheet. It may just have been like someone's name got overridden, so it may just be that when we filter it may be accidentally under someone else's name or blank,
which has happened before.
So what is his not including like the TBD and everything.
I hate whatever this is. Cheats. Doesn't, the formulas aren't the same. They're not the same. I don't even know how to. Hold on.
I mean, you could always just pull pull it into Excel, do what you need to, and then re-upload it. But that would just be extra steps.
I have a Chromebook.
I know.
This is my Chromebook, and I don't have.
Hey man, you chose it. You chose that life.
Listen, I have the actual computer now, but it's sitting at home.
I'm not saying I'm an Apple person. I'm just saying you chose the Chromebook life.
Listen, I have my Windows. I need to get it pretty first, okay?
Hey, it works. It works for stream.
It does work for stream. It works for being portable and running around town. So I just need to learn it better. Let's try. Oh, I think this might be. Nope.
It's not as easy as just like filtering and then just highlighting them, no, because they're all out of 10s. They're not the individual numbers, right? Yes, because they're getting the average. Should we just change that? We know it's out of 10, so
we can just decimal it. Like I could just do it out of tenths.
No, well, I mean, I'm just saying, why not just have the number instead of just writing the number /10? Like, why don't we just put the number? We know it's out of 10, right?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So then you could easily do the average. You could just filter and then highlight them all, and then it will just auto-calculate the average at the bottom of the page, right?
Well, sadly, it does not auto-calculate the average at the bottom of the page. It just gives me totals.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
So you have to actually do the formula.
Exactly. Which I'm like, I hate you. Whatever, it's fine.
That counts as 16. It may be ideas that I have yet to do. The Majesty of Tiamat's Spite, the Pinnacle, the 9th level spell, and a few others. Majesty of Tiamat's Spite. I think we were teased on that one.
He talked to us about it in chat once.
That's right. I think we've been teased on that one, but that's right. Cosmic, you had a few, but you gave me the choice. You asked me which ones we wanted to go through, and
I remember that.
You had like 4 that you had told me about, but we were going in order based on like the lore of the setting. That's why. So yeah, you do have a couple more items still to come. All right. Not bad though. I do like that item. That was really good.
No, that was very nice. All so right. I'm excited. I'm still trying to figure this out. Cosmic, I'm gonna have to get back to you. When I'll post it in the chat for you in our Discord. I will get you set up.
Yeah, we'll get that average to you. We'll post that average to you. I think we'll just change it up. I think we'll just we'll remove the out of 10 just so we have just a flat score. That way we can just look at it and everything. That's fine. And then that's the Dragon Scale Curse related. Okay, so that's the dragon related curse. Also have to do the Shrine Maiden Cleric subclass. Oh yeah,
that's right. I remember.
And then 2 specific floor of the post game Zodiac Tower. Oh, 2 specific floors on the towers that are guarding the
very nice.
The towers are attached to the chains that are holding down the goddess.
And that dragon. 9th level spell is using the power that the chain siphons from.
Yes, it's all connected. It's a beautiful lore that he's constructing for us to listen to and read through. So very nice. It'll be really cool. But yeah, I think that's going to be it. We will get back to you, Cosmic. Thank you again for the submission. We will get back to you on your average, and we'll post that into the Discord as soon as we're able to get all of that fixed up on the leaderboards, which we're still prepping to get posted in the actual leaderboards channel. But yeah, if you guys liked what you guys saw here today and you want to join in, if you want to participate, if you want to submit items for us to review here on Mondays, this is what we do every single Monday. You can also submit these items through our Discord. I will post the link in chat right now. Also, if you did like what you saw and you want to see other live posts, we have all of our live streams on our bots channel on YouTube. I will also post that link in chat if you want to go check out our YouTube channel and check out any of our previous live streams. All of the homebrew reviews are on their own playlist. All of the D&D discussions are on their own playlist, and you can even catch out some of my weekend gaming that I do as well. We will be back on Friday. I don't think I have anything scheduled this week as terms of games, so we will be back on Friday at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time as normal for the normal D&D discussions deep dive topic, which we have not chosen as per usual as of this time.
I think we have something somewhere in the wings.
We have a couple items that really just I know we have a couple items waiting for when you're back in, and then we just have to figure out what your schedule is, because topics will depend on whether he's here or whether it's just me. But last week's topic was really interesting. So we had a new follower come join me during one of my game streams, found out we did D&D topics, and give me a really interesting question about safety tools when it comes to new gaming groups and things like that. And something I wasn't really familiar with. It was a couple terms that I wasn't specific to, relatable to.
I've been having to do some research on very recently myself, because dealing with a lot of kids, a lot of kids in like junior high, high school type stuff, And
it's totally understandable. So yeah, I did a whole episode on gaming etiquette. So last Friday was a gaming etiquette episode, went through what I believe are the pillars or the foundations of a good DM gaming etiquette, what's good foundations for a player DM etiquette, and then finished it off with the safety tools, because it was something that I had to research. It wasn't something I was aware of. The terms that he was using wasn't something that I was like immediately knowledgeable about. So went over that last week. It was actually a really cool topic. So yeah, if you guys like that, please join us. Please continue coming back. We always are here Monday and Fridays for D&D discussions. And then, like I said, if you see me any other time, it's probably just me hanging out playing games. We got from the chat. With a 6 out of 10, I think it might lower my average. Yeah, I think the 6 out of 10 might cut your average by like another point. I think last time it was like a 7.1 or something like that, 7.2. I think he was above 7.
Yeah.
This might get you down to like 7.0. I don't think you're in that concern, but I think you're fine. Concentration isn't really overused. Actually, I honestly, my biggest problem with concentration, little hot take, I think it is not overused. I don't think it's used really tactfully. Like, I think it's just a concept that people use as part of an aspect of a spell, and it's somewhat used tactfully in terms of combat, but I don't really think people get creative enough and really understand the value of knocking someone's concentration off. And there's so many different ways, there's so many more ways to do it than just attacking them. There's so many nonchalant ways of getting someone to lose concentration. And I feel that it's not so much that it's overused or underused. I just think that the counter to concentration is a problem. Like there's not enough creativity in countering a concentration spell. And how many concentration spells, I guess a lot of them do last a while, but not a lot of concentration spells I feel really like take you out of the combat, because you could still do a whole bunch of other stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just kind of one of those, as long as you can hold concentration, which really just means don't take damage. for the most part. And that's what I mean is my problem with concentration is not that it's under or overused, but the standard approach seems to be I can hold it as long as I don't take damage. And it seems like DMs and players alike have that approach to concentration. And I feel like it just doesn't do it justice. I feel like there's so much more to be had with concentration spells and maintaining that concentration. And I just think that there's a lot more creativity that can be had there. In the player's handbook, almost half of all spells require it, counted 2 or 3 times, and the exact percentage was 46.1. Yeah, so I would not call that under or overused. I think that's pretty good, actually. Like I said, I think my issue around concentration is how the approach from DMs and players alike. I think that's my gripe with it is, again, the idea of casting Mage Hand, like this was one of my favorites I saw on like a TikTok or an Instagram reel, but using Mage Hand to stick the Mage Hand finger in the mage's throat, like in their mouth while they're casting a spell to ruin concentration. From across the room, you could just Mage Hand, go over there, boop, and then they're done. Especially if you're a rogue and you have an invisible Mage Hand. Shit, just slap him in the face. Exactly. Spell's over. Spell's over. You fucked up. Like, and again, like another mechanic I haven't really talked about before, but because of second edition has breaks it all the way down to segments, and there's actually like segments in spells that actually matter in terms of it's not just initiative, but it's also how that initiative plays out. Right. I really like the idea that I'm not a huge fan of spells are a yes or no. Right? I don't like pass or fail when it comes to spells. I don't like the idea...
You like severity.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea that casting a spell is either a success or fail. You either cast a spell or nothing happens. I do not like that.
I agree.
I agree that is an aspect of magic. I believe that when practicing low-level magic, you are practicing and either nothing's going to happen or something happens. But I take an issue in that something. Because in D&D logic, when people say, well, nothing happens or something happens, the jump of logic is, well, the thing you're trying to do happens. That's the spell. That's how magic works. It either happens or it doesn't. But my approach to magic is either nothing happens or something happens. And that's where I draw that distinction. Just like in the previous...
That's very fair.
Yeah, just like when Lucifer tried to summon a hellhound and lost control of it because of what someone else did. Messed him up halfway or part at the end of the spell, but it didn't stop the spell from happening. It just messed him up.
It just didn't happen the way it intended.
And I interpreted that as the final part of the spell, right? Because I look at it as how does the spell, get built from a summoning point of view, right? You have to locate the plane. You have to locate the entity. You have to build the bridge. You have to open the door. You have to pull them through, and then you have to bind them. I can just kind of look at, like, in general, that's kind of like how a summoning spell, right? So at the very end of the spell, at the last segment that the spell was supposed to go off, someone had messed with him and knocked off his concentration, but it was the last part of the spell. So in my mind, instead of knocking the whole spell out and being like, nope, spell's gone, I looked at it as, so you fucked up the very final part. And in my mind, the final part of any summoning spell is the binding part. You gotten them here.
Right.
Now they're under. Now you get the under. So I just let it happen to where it's like, well, you got what you wanted. The spell mostly went off successfully. You just fucked up the binding part. So it's no longer binded to you. And that's why it turned on the team, right? But to me, that's how I approach magic. I like magic as this idea that there's counter spells. Like I'm on the side of the team where counter spell loses a slot of magic. Like I think any failure of magic counts as you expending what was going to be the magic spell. I don't agree that failing magic means you get to keep the attempt. A failed means you attempted and failed. Right. You don't get to just... Because that's like saying like, well, I attacked. Well, you missed. Well, I get to attack again. I missed. So I still get my attack. I totally missed.
I didn't get to hit him. I was supposed to hit him, right?
Yeah, my attack, I have to attack him. If I miss, I didn't attack him, did I? Right? Like to me, the idea of, oh, well, I don't expend a spell slot because you counterspelled me. It's like, yeah, but you still cast the spell. You still tried. He just fizzled out the magic. So in that particular case, I think that there's more to magic than just pass or fail. And in that particular case, that again, that's why I think concentration has more creativity to it, because it's more than just a pass fail. It's more than just, oh, you stop concentration, you stop the spell, but there could be so much more involved in what does breaking concentration look like. Let's say, again, it's a mind control thing and you break concentration. So instead of, again, sometimes you could just unsummon the thing, or, the thing just dissipates. But what if it just turns on its, owner? Like, there's just cool little things. And then that also leads into the opportunity of regaining concentration, because the idea of having concentration and spells that are a yes, no, they're on or off, they work or they don't. Imagine having the ability to lose concentration and then you have like one round to snap it back into place. Like the spell is going to, kind of fizzle out, but then you have a chance to regain concentration of it.
Is the spell Call Lightning. Call Lightning basically creates a huge storm above your head.
Yeah.
And every turn, I get to choose where a bolt of lightning comes down and who it hits. But imagine if I lose concentration. Well, that stuff's still there.
So yeah, imagine having
it just strikes wherever the heck it feels like.
Imagine having like, that opportunity to where, and you can even tie it to cast time. So if you lose concentration, you have the same amount of cast time one round. And so if it's like instantaneous, those spells just gone. If it's an instantaneous spell, gone.
Right.
For concentration. But if it's a spell that took one round to cast, if you lose concentration, like you said, the cloud will be there. The lightning will have gone away because you no longer control the lightning, but the cloud's still there.
Right.
And if the cast time was one round, you have one round to regain concentration, and then you can call your lightning right back without expending a new spell slot. It's basically a continuation of the same spell, but you've used your action. You basically you're back where you were before the loss of concentration, but it would be harder. Like, it's progressively harder anytime you lose it, right? It wouldn't just be easy, because then you're basically saying that spells never go off. But the idea of having this opportunity to regain control of a spell with concentration, because it's like, spells are powerful. Spells are an accumulation of magic. Not all spells would just gone, right? Sometimes that magic would take a while to leave.
I really like the idea of this one spell. It's one of my favorite spells. But if something were to happen to it, because it's a concentration spell, it's called Witch Bolt. And basically, I tether myself to another creature with this bolt of magical energy, right? But if somehow I lose control of it, it's almost like the bolt is now attacking both of us, right? And now we're both going down because it's an out-of-control spell.
Right? Yeah, you could do a backfire. I just like the idea, like, let's say, I think Wall of Force is also concentration.
I think so.
So imagine you lose concentration. So for one round, no one, like, the Wall of Force is still there. It's still kind of like, you see like the waviness of it, but it's not actually stopping anybody. It just, people can pass through it until you regain concentration. So
interesting.
Again, it's almost like the spell fizzles, but before it completely fizzles, you get one extra chance. Like, I kind of like, I wish there would be more of a mechanic for that. If you lose concentration, you get the same amount of casting time to regain it, but it's a lot harder.
Right.
It's like at disadvantage, or it's, like you take your modifier but negative your modifier. So you have to, do a DC check, but it's negative like, it would just be, I think, much more, I think it would just be a lot more interesting to have concentration play a bigger role than just, I take damage and my spell stops.
Got it.
Looks
like we have a new chatter with us today. Is it a Quintus?
Quintus J, yeah. Let me see. We have a couple things going on in chat. So, okay, so you updated him with his with Cosmic's average.
I finally got 7.2. Yes.
So not that bad. You're still above 7, Cosmic. Great.
Yes.
That's before today's. Yeah, okay, that includes today's. So today was technically below average. I guess, yeah, today was a below average item. I think Quintus J, narrative that might feel good, but rules balance wise, that feels like crap if you spend energy and don't get to apply it intentionally. That's what Wild Magic is for. I mean, yeah, Wild Magic definitely has a lot more flavor to be able to have that, like, inconsistency with it, right?
Right. A little bit more chaotic feel. I keep seeing people playing Wild Magic Barbarians, and I keep wanting to see that kind of stuff go off more. Like, I don't know what it is, but like having, kind of like you were saying, a little bit more concrete of an idea, but something that might even feel more personal. Like, if you adopted this type of, barbarian, but like, oh, your wild magic geared towards a certain aspect of your character. Maybe it was like fire, or it had something to do with, I don't know.
Well, I think it's on the same vein of what you were trying to do with the Circle of the Leaf Druid is make a druid that was more like what you would expect, right? Like you wanted it to actually focus a lot more on the more lean into the nature aspect, even more so than the standard druid. Because it seems like the druid was kind of I don't know what they call it, a placeholder, but it didn't really emphasize or embody the actual, like, what you envision someone who is of and for nature, right?
Like they did a really good job of like specifying to a lot of specific areas. Like they have a really good fire focused druid. They have a really good animal wild shapey druid. They have a really good, death druid, but like there wasn't a really good plant, like literally about like earth and nature druid. Like there was a lot of the land and like a bunch of different types, but like not actually like getting your hands dirty into nature and actually doing stuff with the world around you. Most of it was more kind of like, you can travel through this area.
It was like idealized that you had a zone, kind of almost like how the ranger, like you had an idealized idea of a terrain, but it didn't really make you feel one with it. It didn't make you have like that connection to it.
An earth bender, more like a vine bender, rather than a. Although they did have vine benders in Avatar, that was actually kind of cool. They were water benders, and they were controlling the water inside
the plants
of the vines.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I could see that, but I could see. Ooh, we'll have to talk about that. High Point may have a new class.
Yeah,
I kind of like that idea.
It was kind of crazy
because if you think about it, like if you think about the concept of benders, is they control the elements, but if you look at it from
they got bloodbending from.
Well, but I mean, if you put it from the point of view of is nature an element? Like, is the actual essence of nature an element? Are these individual creatures? Because again, it depends on your lore, right? It depends on your setting.
Yeah.
If you look at nature as an energy, you could also look at all of nature as a hive mind concept. All plants and all of that, you could see it more as a larger entity than individuals. So you could look at it from the point of view of either that druid is interacting on an individual level, or they are almost attuned with the hive mind itself, right?
Interesting.
Cosmic asks,
Dendro, I like that.
Does a sentient item count as a creature? Does it have intelligence or will of its own? So I think that I don't actually know if this has any hard rule in terms of when an item like an intelligence becomes a creature. I think because like rules it's written a lot of the times, like things like creature or target or all of that are more specific to category, but an item that has sentience I think I don't think it really typically normally fits in a category like that, because you have like Warforged, which technically is a sentient item, but it's also
think about where would you find those living rugs or those flying swords you'd find in the monster manual, right? Monsters, creatures, like those.
I mean, those are considered creatures, yeah.
Technically inanimate objects, but they are magically flying around doing whatever they got to do, even like suits of armor and things like that. And so I can see, but what I would specifically say that for me it comes into play once you have an intelligence higher than a 4. Like that for me is like,
well, I think it's more on his second part, because he says, does it count as a creature? And it, if it has intelligence or will of its own, or I guess, does it have intelligence or will of its own? And I think that would be the difference, right? An item, like, and again, this might be too pedantic. I think in general, if it has intelligence, it's considered a creature. Like, I think for the terms of rules as written, intelligence indicates that's a creature, that is something that you can interact with, whether you attack it or not. I would say, if I were to make an easy, concrete rule, it's more about the context of the intelligence. If it is a sentient item, meaning it can converse, right? A ward that I make that has information that you can ask questions and it'll give it to you, right? In a logical way, but isn't me, just somehow is like a copy of me, isn't alive, doesn't go out and have plans and doing things. It's sentient in the sense that you can interact with it. It can think about what you're saying and respond to it, right?
But is that anything similar to who Dav is interacting with right now?
Kind of, but that's a much bigger. Well, I mean, I don't know if I should give it away or not. I don't know if I should give it away or not. Yeah. Well, okay. So basically, it's not giving anything really away, but in terms of who Dav's talking to in the book series, you remember what happened during juxtaposition?
Yes.
Do you remember the harmonica and the whole big deal about the harmonica?
Yes.
Like the big circle concept of like, do you remember the big, not just who was in it, not just that.
Yeah.
But the whole, like, do you understand why that made a very big full circle from the first book to the third book?
Basically like lightweight chicken egg type deal. Like, if would any of this mess ever have happened in the first place if X, Y, and Z?
Because the whole point was that was his first spell. The first thing he ever asked for when he came to phase was the harmonica. It was the first time he ever vocalized anything. And he got it. It was his very first spell. But it was that harmonica with him in it. Right? Mm-hmm. So just big deal. But when he came out of the harmonica, and then they were two, mm-hmm. and then they went their separate ways. Right? Mm-hmm. When he came to visit High Point and went back home.
And you say he.
The original version.
Okay.
Not the one you're talking to, but the original version of him. When he came to High Point for the first time and then went back home, he did the same thing. He left something behind so someone could come get him. Remember, he left behind a path to come to the traveler, the one that he's waiting for. So it's him, but it's not him.
I see what you're saying.
Do you understand his? When he talks about himself,
yes.
When he says he's the one that waited,
yes,
it's 100. Like,
yes,
it's technically more or less it's the intelligence of the ship, but it is in that vein of magic. It is him. It's just it's a version that's been split. Okay. Same so it's technically a third. It's not the proton version. It's not one of the ones from the book. He did this again.
Gotcha.
Because of what happened last time, he did it again. Sorry, you guys might not know what we're talking about. Sorry, it's
Well, if you guys go back and listen to a little bit of the lore behind Cosmic, actually might have some recollection of what's going on. If he knows, I don't know how much he might have heard into it, but still, like, it was one of the book series that has some foundational...
Yeah, the Apprentice Adept book series by Piers Anthony, which is one of the main, between, that, Doctor Who, Supernatural, and Dresden Files are pretty much the minus a couple other things historically and folklore wise, those are the primary external influences that created High Point outside of just D&D lore.
Right.
And we're talking about someone he's dealing with from the Apprentice Adept series lore. So if you've read those books and you've at least gotten to Juxtaposition, the third book, you may have understood that conversation about the harmonica and the split and what's going on. But otherwise, we didn't need to. But yeah, so when it comes, going back to what I was talking about, where sentient items, I distinguish that into two categories. I'm going to be as simple as I can because you know how High Point gets, it gets pedantic. But in the simplest way I can describe it, I look at things like this in two different fashions. Sentient items and intelligent items. That is where I make a difference. And sentience is not intelligence, in my opinion.
That's right.
And in my opinion, intelligence equals creature, because like Cosmic said, intelligence means you have thoughts, opinions, you have will, you have a willpower of your own, you have your own agenda. You are a creature. Whether your intelligence is a 2 doesn't matter.
Yes.
Because you are still going off instinct. Yes. You can have it like a mouse is still motivated by their intelligence.
Still not like a certain type of food.
Yeah. So when I think of intelligence, that denotes a creature. But if you say an item is sentient, I, in High Point, will say there is a difference when I say a sentient item versus an intelligent item.
So, because you and I were actually talking about this on one of our streams not too long ago, because I am still very interested in Bankai weapons.
Yep.
Right? And those require sentience, right? And I don't know if, and you said that generally speaking, they occur naturally over a long time through a lot of, and like, it's not really something that's like for mortals, right? Because you got to like pour experience into it and all this extra stuff. And after a certain point, experience can turn into intelligence.
Yes. So again, so when it comes to things like specific weapons like that, when they're at their height, when they're actually like doing what they're supposed to be doing, those are considered intelligent. Like those have actual intelligence. Sentience, especially in high point, when I use sentience, especially sentient items, these are either things of extremely low power, like low level magic, or they're things that are created, I guess, for lack of a better purpose, like informational purposes. Like they aren't out to do something. They aren't motivated. They are tools. They have a sentience, but not an intelligence. They aren't a personality. They're not a soul. They're not trying to escape. They weren't trapped there. They are there to perform a task, and that task has some sort of semblance of intelligence.
Kind of like the EMH from Star Trek.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So basically just sentience doesn't mean that they're alive. It's almost like a program. A sentience would be a program. Intelligence would be life, a soul.
Okay.
And so sentient items can exist. Like there are, I guess like the computer on Star Trek would be sentient, not intelligent. Whereas perfect. So Star Trek references. The Star Trek computer is sentient in high point.
Okay.
The EMS, the
emergency medically hologram program,
that's intelligence.
Okay.
The ship would be sentient. The EMS would be intelligence because he has motivations. Now, granted, think about it. Like,
right.
He always pops up and says the same thing, but he remembers what he does. He has a purpose. He himself wants, desires. He can go elsewhere, but the computer is responsive.
Going back a couple generations, Data also intelligent.
Correct.
Okay.
Data would be intelligent, not sentient, because he does much more than just respond. The computer, if you think about it, the computer is an automaton. It has input. It can autonomously do things if the right criteria are met. If the right inputs are received, the right output.
Like a vending machine.
Well, yeah. If all the crew are dead, the ship will go back home. The ship is not thinking, I have to go back home. The ship is not worried about the crew. The ship got input, no life signs, therefore output, go home. Data would think about the crew. He would remember the crew. He would talk about the crew. He would bury the crew, right? Like, he may not feel the emotions, but the intelligence would understand what happened, whereas the ship would just go, oh, crew's dead. I'm home.
A plus B equals C.
What's next? Where's my captain? Oh, new captain. What do you order me to do? Like, because you never think about the ship. The ship never does anything on its own. So that's how I do it in High Point, and I like that because it also gives two categories.
You don't have to worry about them feeling bad.
Yeah. They're basically, again, dead inside. Automatons, like I classify like the very first Warforged were sentient before they actually started getting like souls and becoming intelligent. So the very first the very first ones were automatons. They were just war machines. They were literally nothing but move forward and kill what moves. And then eventually they got better and better, right? But I like doing that because I like separating categories of intelligence like that for this purpose, right? What is an intelligent item? What is something that I can target? What is something that I have to worry about versus what do I want to have some sort of interactability with without thinking too far beyond what it is, right? So it's like a computer program versus, a person. Yeah. I like doing it that way.
No, I get that.
And I think it works. Now, is that probably pedantic? Probably. I think rules is written, sentience equals intelligence equals creature. I think that's how rules is written intends it to be.
Right.
I like breaking it up. Fantastic question, though, Cosmic. And then he says, last thing he said was he wants to make a backup character for the Tuesday group that he's in case anything happens to Volk. I don't remember by name, so I don't remember who Volk is.
That might be the... Is that the Rabbit Folk?
I don't think so. I think the Rabbit Folk had a different name. Is that the Fairy... Oh, no, not the Fairy Folk. Is that the Phoenix Folk?
Oh.
Is Volk the Phoenix Folk?
Maybe.
He's thinking about doing an orc that hates the concept of magic because he's too stupid to understand it, let alone how and why it works the way it does.
That would be a great wild magic build. It just stuff happens around him. He's trying to be a barbarian. He's trying to just punch things to death. And just magic starts happening all around him.
Like it when players do that. Create like a character where like, I hate magic, but you're a wild mage. Yeah, I hate magic and I can't get away from it. Everywhere I go, fucking magic happens, man. Every time it pisses. Oh my God.
And it's so helpful to him all the time.
So I also like it when characters lean in. Oh, it's the Aarakocra. Thank you. I like it when characters lean into their builds. Like, I love it. I see it so rarely. And it kind of pains me. But I see it so rarely, and I love it when I see someone lean so heavy into their character. Like when I see people, and I've only seen this a handful of times, but when someone plays a barbarian with an actual fucking trigger. Like an actual honest, I rage when that happens. So I don't just decide, oh, fight time. Bro, I'm mad and rage. No.
So does that mean they don't rage unless that trigger happens?
Yes. I love it when players do this because it could be something stupid as if I get insulted, I can't handle it. But I also like when they play it even further when they have to fight going rageful. So when they say, like, I love it when players lean into this. So it's like, imagine in a fight, right? Like you're losing a fight. And so you just call out, tell me you hate me. What? Tell me you hate me. You just yell at your own party. Just insult me. Because think about it, like, you know what your trigger is, but you can't do it. So you have something ingrained like that. Or
I was just about to say, like, if it's like, hey, somebody insults your mother or something like that, and like your party members know that, and so they're just...
It's like a Hulk moment, right? Where it's like, you could be that whole thing where it's like, you guys were about to get like captured by the guards, and you're like, hey, dude, your mother's ugly. What? Yeah, I saw her last weekend. Fucking ugly as piss, man. And you just egg him on until he rages to go again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are the times where sometimes I feel like barbarians are fun, but rage is just kind of a cop. You know what I mean? It's a turn on ability that I just do. I love it when people play a trigger and role play it. Like, one of the podcasts that I listened to, it was the one that had the dwarf barbarian butler that I loved, that was like so subservient and just like literally was just this sniveling little nothing of a butler, but his trigger things need to be like neat and tidy and pristine and clean, and if he doesn't, like, he'll get yelled at and beaten, and like it's a trigger. So in battle, whenever he wanted to rage, like whenever it was like, oh, he just got hit or whatever, he's like, okay, well, I just got hit, right? Okay, so I just got hit. I'm like, that hurt. And I look down and I see blood on my white lapel. And then I think back, oh no, I don't have club soda. I'm not gonna be able to wash this off. He's gonna beat me with and then he would rage. And that was that's how he would do it. Anytime he needed to rage, he had to find a reason, and he would wait until something would make sense for his character to be like,
that. You can find it. I can grab onto that. I can go.
And I like it. I'm not saying that you can't rage whenever you want, but I really like it when they lean into
you try and like play it as a party. Like, I do that. I like that too. For me, that comes a lot along the lines of, you mentioned it a while ago, but like when it comes to like magic users and them actually not only just describing what your spells look like, because that in and of itself can be huge. Like, having the way my magic missile looks versus everybody else's magic missile, you know, like how it's unique to me and my magic and how it goes off. But a lot of others, it's like, what are your components, your material components, your somatic components, your whatever components, and a lot of people use that into the creativity of what it is that and they bring it into, like, that just, to me, especially when you can do little things like we were talking about, like sorcerers taking out like a piece of their hair, and then just like, you look like a bum, you look like a dirty bum, but that you are that dirty just because you know that everything on you is something you can use to create and build magic. Like you just lean into it. So I really like that. There's so many cool ways you could do it too.
Yeah, and it's what you're saying, like a barbarian that has wild magic. Can you imagine like to rage, like they rage whenever magic happens, But imagine like it's also when raging, wild magic happens. So it's kind of like a hand in hand where whenever they want to rage,
Right.
they'll wild magic, and then that will cause them to rage because they don't know where the magic's coming from, and they're just like, why am I always followed? Magic's never like.
Oh my gosh.
And then Cosmic says, so you know how some spells have the stipulation you touch a willing creature. Mechanically, the orc would never allow such a spell to be used on him. So even if like the paladin had laid on hands or the cleric's channeled divinity, he'll just refuse it. So he's just like, no magic, unwilling, period.
Yeah, he's just got this instinctual flinch against it. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I like it.
All right. Well, that was fantastic. I think that takes us over our time for today. I think that was a good couple ending tangents. Hey, we left all the tangents for the end. We finally got through the review.
We
and
got
the
through
score.
the item first. I like it.
But I think that is going to be us for tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Cosmic and Venturology, thank you so much for joining us in chat. If you guys enjoyed, thank you again. Go ahead and join us if you like. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about today's topic. If you want to submit topics that you want to hear us talk about on Fridays, or if you want to submit your own homebrew review, I will go ahead and post the Discord link one more time in chat for you. But otherwise, I think we're going to call it a night for here. Thank you again for joining us and keeping us company. We will be back on Friday at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time for more D&D discussions with a deep dive on some other topic that I will come up with this week. But otherwise, that's going to be us. Thank you guys so much.
Deuces, my friends.